Hey you guys, in day 2 I had done some work in Photoshop and then I embossed over the letters, and I had a lady ask me to please share that technique because she just didn't understand what it was I was trying to say I did. So today, while I'm working on day 3's tag, I thought I'll share some of the techniques that I use to improvise where I don't have the product supplies that Tim Holtz is using. So what I want to share with you today is how I did the lettering. Now, you got to do the stamping just like he does. You know, that technique that he did is on his blog. You can go reference that. I'll put the description down in the bottom. But I don't have the embossing folder. So I'm going to take it to the next step, and I'm going to show you guys how I improvised. I have this Versamarker ink pen. They're really cool. They're like $4 a piece, and I've had this one for about 5 years, so they last a really long time. The one tip is brush tip, and then the other tip is like a little pen tip nib, and that's the tip we're going to use. So basically, after my tag is on the paper, I'm going to take and I'm going to trace over all of these letters. Now, you want to be careful when you do this so that you don't get too much overspray. I know on some of these smaller values in here, like this tip is broader than that, so it's probably going to have a little overlay. But you're basically going to just color in those letters where you want the embossing powders to land. Then I'm going to take and I'm going to put my embossing powder on there, and I'm going to be quite liberal with it because I want really good coverage. Now again, this is just my cheat for not having the embossing folder. So basically, I can tell that my surface is covered pretty well. I may have a little bit of overage in here, so what I'm going to do is take, let me move this powder out of the way. I'm going to take a toothpick and I'm going to remove the powder from those places. Now, some of this might come off if you just tap it really good, and it did. But I'm just going to kind of remove that out of there. Now remember, this does not have to be perfect. There is going to be some foliage in this corner right here covering this up, but if for some reason that doesn't cover, I still want it to look neat. You don't see me doing a whole lot of embossing because if I'm not embossing the entire project, I'm stamping and embossing challenged. Trust me, I'm just not good at it. And I think it's because my hands shake really bad. So I'm going to remove all of that powder residue from spots that don't belong. And then I'm just going to heat set it. And there you go. Now I have a nice resist on my tag. It has that nice raised embossed look to it. It's not like Tim's. I'm gonna tell you now because I don't have the embossing folder, but I'm okay with it. Okay, so now for the next tip. I do not have the die cut that he used in today's tag. He used the Holly Flourish tag, Flourish die. So my next tip is going to show you how to use craft paper to create the same looks that he's using with his coordinations paper. I don't have the coordinations paper, so we're going to have to pitch hit a little bit. So I'm going to pause this video, get my supplies together, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I'm back, and what I have is my holly. And I'm going to show you how I made this like tattered looking holly with the variegated leaves, not having any of the coordinations paper. So I'm going to start out with, I just have a little scrap piece of chipboard here on my surface so that when you're sanding, you're not sanding directly on your healing mat. Trust me, my healing mat has seen better days, but I don't need to help it out any. So what I'm going to do is I started out with a piece of holly branch that I cut from the lamppost die, because that's the one I have that has the small holly on it. So I'm going to, the other option, I'm going to give you a couple options. The other option is if you have this Martha Stewart punch, you could certainly use this holly. It's about the same size, maybe a little bit bigger. Or no, it's exactly the same size. So that is an option too if you have that. But what we're going to do is we're going to start out with our crushed olive, and I am going to just take my finger, super scientific here, and I'm just going to kind of rub it onto the holly. And what this is doing is it's going to provide us with our craft core with our colored top. Okay, so we have a nice look there. You could stop there certainly, but in today's tag, Tim shows us how to distress the holly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold it, each one of these petals, in half. And then I'm going to take my little sander and I'm going to sand right where that crease is. Just lightly sand it. And then what it's done is it has sand away the top coat of the distress ink that I added, and it reveals the craft cardstock underneath. So that's how I'm faking the coordinations paper. Now, if you have the coordinations, I highly recommend using it because it's probably going to give you a better look than what I'm going to give you here. But again, I'm just going to fold that in half, sand on the crease, and then open it back up. And see, now our holly's starting to get little veins in it, which give it character. So I'm just going to fold this in half, sanding in the center, and opening it back up. So there we go. But that still isn't good enough for me. So what I'm going to do now is take my bundled sage, a clean finger so you don't contaminate. This one is the crushed olive. This one will be the sage. And bundled sage has a little more of an evergreen color to it, which is more natural for holly. And again, I'm just going to kind of rub that around and just kind of pick up some of those little edges a little bit to give a little depth to my holly leaf. A little more true to color. And it really does help with the two-tone colors like this. It helps to bring that alive and really accentuate that vein. So now I have realistic looking holly to go on my tree. So I'm going to go ahead and try and put this together. I did not have that die before. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to use, I showed you guys how to make this little branchy tree the other day, and I'm going to cut some of the sprigs off this branchy tree since I don't have the flourish that goes onto the tag for today. I'm going to use some of the branches off of my tree as part of my flourish. So I'm going to be careful to cut this so that I can use it again if I need to. My goal is to cover up this WFE that is sitting here. So I've just got my hot glue and I'm going to cover up this right here. I want some of this to hang off the edge of the tag because I think that gives it character. And then I am going to come over here and snip off another branch. And this time I'm going to have it coming out this direction. So I'm going to now I'm going to take a piece of my holly and I'm going to just kind of fill in. Now, I also have the sprigs of spruce that he used, but they also look entirely too clean. So I'm going to put them down on my mat here and just kind of sand them a little bit. And make them look a little tattered. Some of them may break, and that's okay. And, you know, This would be easier if you used his technique of keeping it inside of the paper, but my paper shredded when I pulled it out. So I'm going to use my bundled sage again. Oh, wrong finger. And I'm just going to kind of hit those areas a little bit. Just to give this a little bit of depth too, a little tone on tone effect. I think that just kind of gives it a little depth. And I'm going to take and cut some of these sprigs off, and I'm going to work them into my arrangement a little bit. When you're doing sprays and things, it's always easier to start with your biggest piece and then work your way out. And then also I like to take my, I start with the bottom layer and then layer on top of that as well. So again, I'm just going to cut little sprigs of this off. I like that. I'm going to put a little bit of hot glue on here and tuck it underneath here and kind of hide that E that's there. And see how we're just building that out just a little bit? Might even want to consider maybe another piece of that branch, but I'm going to avoid it for now. I'm going to take my other piece of holly and place it right here, kind of layered, kind of covering up some of that. I like that they're sitting on top of each other. I like that they are different depths. So that's what I have. Now it's time to do our berries. Now Tim used alcohol inks to recolor some berries, and I happen to already have some red little jewels here, so I'm just going to go ahead and use those. I'm going to have to pick them out. But I'm going to go ahead, and while I look through those, I am going to, well, let me show you something here first. Okay, Tim used alcohol inks to cover his. So like I have this pink one. Obviously pink is not going to work. Well, what you can do is if you have your Copic markers or you have any kind of permanent marker, I'm going to use my big pen. If you have any kind of like permanent marker or Copic marker, anything like that, you can take any of these jewels as long as it's lighter than the color you're trying to use, and you can recolor these with a pen. Now, is alcohol ink easier? Probably, because you can apply it with an applicator tool. But you see how we took that pink and we made it red. And that's really all you have to do. So don't get hung up on itty bitty details like that are really, you know, don't let that stop you from doing this. Okay, so put that there. And actually, if you actually wanted to glue it down so that something was there to hold it, you could definitely do that and then color it in. I'm okay with that. To keep it consistent, let's just do another pink one. So this time, I'm just going to glue it down. They kind of look a bit orange. I might have to go and darken them up, get a darker color and darken them up. But put my little pink one right there. Watch this. Take a red big marker. Sharpie would work if you had a Sharpie. And the trick with permanent markers is that as long as you're going over them while they're still wet, it continues to add color. But as soon as you go over it when it's dry, it's going to lift the color off. So the ink that's in them will actually serve as an eraser as well as a permanent solution. So beware of that. Don't let them dry. And if you're going to color right onto your project, then make sure you do not color your holly leaves either, you know, too. So let's find another pink one and glue down my third one here. Don't worry about them little spider veins. We'll get them out, spider webs. So there's my holly. And I'm going to color this one in. Now, I'm totally okay with this. I'm just going to hit it with my hot glue gun. pull some of that out. And since we have snow on our branchy tree, I'm not sure if Tim used snow or not. But what we're going to do is go ahead and put our snow in there. And to do that, I'm just going to use this paint dauber. And mine, the sponge part doesn't work very well. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my finger. I'm going to blot it off. I just want a dry brush effect. And I'm just going to hit the tips of my holly. Just where snow would fall if it was collecting on a branch. You know, I don't want it too much because I don't want it to look messy like that. I'm just going to wipe it off my berry. And there you have it. Now there's my tag. So let me go add my ribbon to it, and I will give you my final version of the tag in just a moment. Okay, so I'm back with the finished tag, and this is what I did. My jingle bell is a little smaller than the one he used, but this was the only one I had, and I'm staying true to not purchasing anything. The jute that I had was the finer jute, so I don't have the really thick. But what I did was instead of just doing a small little tie, I decided to do a bunch of little loop-de-loops. And basically that's really easy to do. All you have to do is, you know, you just make like a figure 8 in your hand, back and forth till you have the desired number of loops. And then when you snip it off, just tie a piece around the center to keep it tight. So that's how I did this, and you can still kind of pull and tug at the loops to keep them even. Sometimes it's, you know, they get a little out of whack, but anyway, there you go. I really like the whimsy look of the top of mine. And then down at the bottom, of course, as I was making it, I showed you guys that I had a hard time you know, I didn't have the same thing, so I showed you guys how I substituted, and I like my substitution. I think it looks just as good. I added some snow to mine. I don't think he added snow to his. But anyway, it was fun. This is my day 3. Thank you guys for following me on this journey. And again, if you have completed day 3, add a video response to this video so that we can all see what everybody's doing. So thank you guys for watching, and I look forward to day 4.